Hello guys, welcome to the ObaNutrition channel. Today in this episode, I want to talk about the health benefits of fasting. And before I dive into the health benefits of fasting, I want to share something important that I think has been misunderstood about fasting. One thing you ought to understand is that fasting has been an ancient method by which we have engaged in as human beings to be able to acquire spiritual benefits, especially among the Muslim religion, in Christianity. For example, famously in the Muslim, you have the Ramadan, and even in Christianity, we have the famous fast of Christ of 40 days. But all along, we have been engaging in fasting, and most of the time, fasting has been confused with starvation. Now, starvation is not the same thing as fasting. Reason being, and this is something important to note, is that when you are starving, you don't know when your next meal will come. But when you are fasting, you are aware at what time you will be breaking your fast in order to eat your next meal. For example, when you sleep at night, if you are starving, you won't know if tomorrow you'll have a meal. But if you are in a fasted state, you'll know that tomorrow at probably 11 a.m., I'll be breaking my fast because there's a meal that you are anticipating for and that you are sure will be there. The other thing with starvation and the other difference between starvation and fasting is that with fasting, it is predictable. You can predict and you can also break it at any time. With starvation, you cannot break it at any time because you are not aware of your next meal. You plan to fast for 20 hours and you can decide to break it at 16 hours. But with starvation, you cannot break it at any point. And starvation is not predictable. It's you're not in control of it. There are other factors that are in control of it. So those are the basic differences between fasting and starvation. So when you are fasting, it should be assumed that you are starving. No, you are just setting some time apart away from food in order to acquire certain benefits. Now I want to talk about the nutritional benefits of fasting. We all think that nutrition is all about eating, but we don't understand is that there's another part of nutrition which is about assimilating. And most of the nutrients that we assimilate, they will be used when in a fasted state. For example, most of the time that you think you're using nutrients or when you're burning nutrients, it will be when you're in a fasted state. For example, at night. Most of the time we burn calories even at night when you are sleeping, in the sense that you are burning calories when you are through sweating, through breathing and all that. So most of the time you'll also be burning calories through fasting. But now I want to talk about the nutritional benefits of fasting. The first benefit of fasting is that it helps you lose weight. This is essential, especially for those who are overweight and obese, because when you are fasting, you are not eating anything. There's nothing coming in. That means your body will turn into its own fat stores in order to use those fat stores that you have stored for energy. And this is what was saving us during times when there were drought. We would normally eat a lot when there is plenty, and then we would gain weight. When drought comes in, we had our own fat stores that our body could use for energy in order to sustain us during the drought. So number one, the health benefit is that it helps you lose weight, especially for the overweight and obese. The second benefit of fasting is that it increases insulin sensitivity. Now there's a difference between insulin sensitivity and insulin resistance. When you're diagnosed as diabetic, you're assumed to be having insulin resistance, and insulin resistance is the cause of obesity and diabetes. So insulin sensitivity is the opposite of what causes diabetes. So when you are insulin sensitivity, it means your risk also of becoming obese or even of becoming diabetic is very, very low. The third benefit of fasting is that it promotes longevity. How does it promote longevity? There's a number of hours that if you fast beyond it, we start breaking down our own fat, our own cells that are worn out. This process is known as autophagy. Now, autophagy is a process in which you are breaking down worn out cells. For example, I would say that you have a dustbin in your body. So, the same manner, the body has its own debris or dustbin. And the process of autophagy, it enhances us to remove these waste cells or this dustbin outside of our body. So, every day they are worn out red blood cells, they are worn out hormones, they are worn out chemical enzymes that are inside the body, and these enzymes need to be removed. So when these enzymes accumulate in the body, we age faster, we start growing old at a faster rate. But when they are continuously removed, it means that we are creating space for new cells to grow, and we are also cleansing the body. In that way, we are increasing longevity and also being able to look younger. The other benefit of fasting is that it increases BFND, brain-derived neurotic factor. So the brain-derived neurotic factor is what enhances the sharpness or that brain intelligence whenever you are fasting, because the brain-derived neurotrophic factor is actually food for the brain. So it enhances us to be able to have that concentration, that mental clarity whenever you're in a fasted state. And that's why fasting also enhances the spiritual activity, because the brain derived neurotrophic factor is produced, enhancing that concentration, which helps us in our spiritual state whenever we are fasting. The other benefit of fasting is that it enhances enhances energy production. And one thing that has been confused about fasting is that whenever you're fasting, you will not have energy, or which is not true. Majority of the time when you are getting used to fasting, more probably at the first stages, before the body now starts adapting to use the products of fat, because you'll be burning fat whenever you're fasting, which is called ketones. Before the body adapts to use ketones for energy, you will experience some episodes of hunger. But once the body is adapted to, the episodes of hunger disappear away. And when they disappear away, you'll have increased energy levels. You can do a lot, even manual labor, whenever you're in a fasted state. But for you to be able to engage, to get to this state at which you can have energy whenever you're in a fasted state, you have to give your body the time to be able to use ketones for energy. And number two, for this also to be able to be efficient, you have to have a good electrolyte stores. Majority of the time you experiences shivering and all those low energy levels because we are having low electrolyte levels. And whenever you get into fasting with the low electrolyte levels, it will not be good for you. So you have to ensure that you're having adequate sodium levels, adequate potassium levels, adequate zinc levels, adequate magnesium levels. Otherwise, going to fasting without these levels being normal, you will always experience episodes of lethargy, tiredness, shaking, feeling headaches. Whenever you're having these symptoms, whenever you're fasting, it means you are having very, very low electrolyte levels. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're hypoglycemic. You're just having very low electrolyte levels because of your poor diet that you are in before you started fasting. So before you start fasting, ensure that you have corrected your diet, because that will make it easier for you and you'll have energy. The other benefit of fasting is that it enhances production of the human growth hormone. So the human growth hormone is what encourages growth, and this growth is important for our muscles, for our cells. So we will always be producing new muscles, new cells, and this is very important for those who want to create more muscle, because even if you're trying to eat a lot in order to gain in a caloric to gain more calories, I'm trying to get that word. You're not in a caloric deficit. You're essentially eating more calories so that you can build more muscle. You also have to give the time the body in order to grow new cells. At least 12 hours, which is very good for the body to be able to grow new muscle cells through the production of the human growth hormone. The other thing is that it enhances removal of small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So whenever you're fasting, you'll find out that you're having these intestinal movements or these intestinal sounds. Those sounds means it's the shifting of bacteria from the small intestines to the large intestines. These bacteria, they're not supposed to be overgrowing in the small intestines, because if they overgrow in the small intestines, it means we'll not be able to absorb nutrients, because they'll be taking the nutrients that our body needs. They are supposed to be found in the large intestines, where we are removing our waste, and that's where they can get their food without those bacteria affecting our own food stores or our own food that we are not supposed to be absorbed. So fasting helps translocation of these bacteria into the large intestines, so it will be able to treat small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. The last benefit that I want to talk about is that it increases or it spikes production of testosterone. Testosterone is a male sexual hormone, and this hormone always spikes whenever in a fasted state. This is one of the reasons why men will always have a deep voice in the morning, because they have been in a fasted state the whole night for at least 8 hours, and this hormone was produced at greater levels, so they're getting a deeper voice because of increased levels of that hormone. And also they will also have an erection because of increased production of testosterone after engaging in fasting at night for at least 8 hours when they were asleep. So if you want to boost your testosterone levels, one way of doing it is through fasting. But even though you are trying to do it through fasting, ensure that your diet is good, because a good diet will ensure that these benefits you are able to achieve. So thank you guys for watching this video today, and I hope you can be able to understand that fasting is very principled in nutrition. Fasting is not the opposite of nutrition, but it's one component with nutrition. Be blessed, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.